Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to Energy Hub TV, number one TV channel online for you to get all you need to know about the energy trends happening in the world right now. If you need to make decisions, if you need insights to make serious decisions about the energy industry, this is where you need to come to. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and share our content with your community. Today, we are here to discuss something that has cascaded from last year into this year. Two very serious topics that are defining the new wave and how we perceive energy, and of course, how energy affects geopolitics. Number one, we're going to be looking at the energy transition, something that has actually defined conversations for like the past decade. And interestingly, a very recent conversation around Russia-Ukraine conflict, the war. So we're going to be looking at how those two events present opportunities and challenges for the Nigerian oil and gas. And of course, I have our regular guest, Dr. Felix Amerifo. You're welcome, sir.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Yes,
sir. So quickly, we are going to look at the very first topic, which is energy transition. Sir, we want to know, so where is the world on the energy transition agenda? Because I know last year, it was just the Conference of Parties in 2016, and a whole lot of promises were made, pledges. Where is the world on that right now? Because I know there are a lot of distractions. Where is the world on, number one, and what are we to expect in the COP26? 27, rather.
Yeah, excellent. It's interesting. It's interesting that, two things seem to be helping the energy transition agenda. We didn't see it clearly before. One, the COVID that came, that shut down, brought it clearly that each nation have to be worried about energy. And because, a movement of tankers and flights, it became clear that you have to have not only energy security, but energy independence. So that also, and then of course, when the global shutdowns came, emissions were low. So it's like, oh, wow. So we can actually cut back emissions. So that actually supported the agenda of the transition, because it's clear that, the noise and all the movement were really, the human, activity that is causing the pollution. So that was really, now, surprisingly, the Russian Ukraine war is also, enforcing renewable energy independence, energy security, because Russia contributes significantly to the global oil and gas, and with the massive sanctions, more than 5,500 different sanctions, and they are coming every day. I just yesterday, Putin signed that to buy his gas, it has to be paid in Russian currency. This morning I was listening to CNN and said, no, the West said we are not going to submit to that. And then the story is this simple. Russia exports almost 85% of its gas to Europe, which contributes only 40% of European, needs. So the question is, if Russia wants to block, who loses? Russia will lose, because the investment to move Russian pipelines that deliver gas to Europe, away from Europe into Asia, will not be this money. Where will they have the money to do it? Where will they have the structure to do it? Russia is not, in quote, a very, very, resilient economy. I mean, they are not competitive. They're almost like, half of the UK economy, as a matter of fact. So it's all of these dynamics is also supporting the energy transition, because energy transition, though, is climatic in nature, but is actually a shift of the primary energy into something that is sustainable and something that will give, an environmental, sustainability. So Europe, I mean, if you listen to Europe is beginning to say, okay, you know what? I mean, we need to start looking at this renewable energy, to make sure that we are not completely, even though, of course, Germany and all that are building LNG, terminals to be able to get LNG. America is working so hard to ensure that they can. So these two activities seems to be supporting. You understand, supporting the remotely and even now directly the energy transition agenda. That listen, what we cannot get by forcing people, now we may probably have it because of geopolitics, of sanctioning Russian gas. Because Russia, of course, the rubles just started crashing. I mean, almost all international financial transactions are because of. So Russia needs to do something to boost its economy. And if you trade with it in its own direct currency, that is going to show up its currency. You understand? So yes, where are we? COP27 is November this year, and for the first time, it's going to be held in Africa. In Egypt, as a matter of fact. And of course, COP26 actually had a foundation, but some of the lag, the promises of 100 billion didn't come true. Issues of loss and damage, because whether you like it or not, I do not think that the energy transition is just a theoretical. There is physical evidence. I mean, climatic changes are almost every time. All over the world, you see so many things happening, and so there are losses. Losses, people, arable lands, communities, flash floods, hurricane, and all these things are impacting, and people are migrating, and damages. So, what COP26 actually brought out was we need to pay attention to this loss and damages that are coming in, which will be a forefront in COP27. And then there's what they call adaptation. These climatic changes, people have to adapt to it. People have to be able to, and these were not very strong, but now, COP26 actually brought it out. But then the expectation is that COP27 will push it, and there's a demand for each country to set, the NDC, to bring forth, very ambitious, because the truth is this: the 1.5 is almost becoming unrealistic. It's unachievable. But they still want to keep it within, if everybody push forward, everybody push forward. But the irony of it is this. The irony of it is this. The global economy, as we speak, it will take time before renewable can run it well. You understand? So they understand that it's not just going to be a flip, that fossil fuel have to go, renewable have to come. It's not going to be a flip. Everybody understands that. Everybody. But there are a lot more investments in fossil fuel. Surprisingly, people are investing in fossil fuel to increase their fossil fuel capacity. Of course, right now with Russia, being cut off and all that, to OPEC just said they don't have the capacity to replace. So there's going to be a lot more investment to boost capacity. So definitely, but what COP27 will do is to get everybody to agree that the transition is critical. The global environment is under pressure, under threat. There's a lot of damages, a lot of losses, and you reach economies that grew your economy on fossil fuel. Africa is very significant, but of course the pressure is on Africa, as well. The climatic changes are, coming to Africa very aggressively. Nigeria is also experiencing it, but the developing economies do not have the capital to, to manage this, and that's what COP27 will do, to be able to force and push and plead that this commitment that the developed economies made, they should make it happen, for people to move forward. They want everybody to be on the same team. The technologies to support, of course, decarbonization, demethanization, and of course, one of the things that is really on the table also is natural solution. The issue of planting trees and all that. It's also going to be very strong, especially for those areas where you're having desertification, desert encroachment, droughts are coming and all that. So I see that you can't really wish the transition away. In fact, a lot of things that are happening, without necessarily on the climatic side, the geopolitics will support renewables. And the more the target is, presently renewable is just about 14% of the energy mix. They are looking at about up to 40%. But, to grow from 14 to 40 will require a concerted global support. You understand? Global support. And the benefits will be clear. You understand? As you gradually pull out fossil fuel, you understand? And also, if they also invest in the technology of reducing or try to maintain, I think the language should be net zero. The net zero concept is that whatever you bring, it has to be taken care of. So there is a balancing act so that there is no extra emission into the atmosphere to increase, the global temperature, and then the heat wave and all the challenges, the melting Arctics and all that. We're seeing the rising sea levels, the fires that are coming, the snows that will take over, New York and all of those things are very critical. And it's something that we're looking forward to, especially for Africa that will be hosting it. It would be, I can understand in a lot of pressure, but it would be good that the globe come to appreciate that they need to be on the same table. So everybody is looking forward to, and we hope that all of these things that are happening will further increase the quantum of renewable in the global energy mix. That will also indirectly, remotely supporting the transition agenda.
You mentioned something about how they're bringing the conference to Africa. I think you said this will require, the whole movement of transition will require a collective effort, support and everything. Now we want to see, I don't know if that move of bringing it to Africa is also to encourage inclusion, but I also want to know if there are opportunities in this whole event for Nigeria.
For Africa, honestly, it's Africa because, the opportunities are number one is that there'll be job creation. But this is a new area. You understand? This is a new area. So you will have an opportunity of having, even though you want to walk away from fossil fuel, you are going to create a new environment. In fact, the estimate is that, energy transition should produce almost close to 85 million jobs as against 14, 15 million jobs in the fossil fuel. So it's massive. But, taking advantage of that and recognizing the opportunity. You understand? Recognizing the opportunity, recognizing, and the only thing I see for Africa is that it's an emotional thing that we have fossil fuel, we have but I tell myself that can Africa really change the direction of the transition? It's very unlikely. Because number one is that Africa does not have even the capacity, the funding capacity to fund its fossil fuel. These funds will still come from the developed economies that are promoting the transition. So how will Africa balance the act of funding its fossil fuel? And you understand? So it has to be, for me, coming to Africa will be, Africans need to have a lot of idea, a selling point And the selling point is that, guys, listen, you know, this is where we are. You guys are matured fossil fuel region. I mean, you grew with fossil fuel. So what we need is this. We are going to follow you to the transition. But we'll need a technology that will help us minimize emission with our hydrocarbon resources, while at the same time also growing with the transition with you. I mean, that is what Africa will, for me, I see that as a clear, you understand, so that we can, as people say, we can eat from both sides. You know, that listen, we need the technology to be able to support our, which is actually what the US was actually advocating. You know, US was very strong, while the European majors are divesting from fossil fuel into renewable. The US said, listen, we can actually control and mitigate and minimize the emission by innovative technology, the CCSU, and then even now, you have the bioenergy and the carbon capture. You understand? So the US believe that they can. So Africa can actually stay in the hybrid. You understand? Guys, listen, we have gas, we have oil. So you guys need to help us to adopt the technology that will minimize. Then also, look, it's going to really blow, because, they must listen to Africa. I believe they will. But Africa needs to present it in an opportunistic manner for them to see that, listen, okay, you know what? Africa needs gas. Africa needs oil. But Africa does not have the money, and Africa does not have the technology. If we want Africa to support us, because they don't have that mission that we have, but yet they are paying for what we do. You know what? Let's get Africa a balancing act. You understand? Let's make sure that every molecule of gas and every barrel of oil within this period is within the net zero. Net zero. That's what Africa should be pursuing. How to net zero is hydrocarbon industry. Not necessarily just to produce the hydrocarbon, but there are technologies that will net zero your hydrocarbon emissions. And that is an opportunity. Presently, I do not think Nigeria, Africa have institutes. Our universities are still petroleum engineering universities, are still electric. You understand? Now is the sustainable energy, the net zero concept, the researches, the laboratories, the controls. For me, I see a big opportunity for Africa. I see a big opportunity for Africa. The refineries, you understand? So Africa should go into technology, pressure on the West. But listen, guys, listen, we know you have this. We want you to, instead of you to tell us to stop, we want to work within the net zero environment and also support in the renewables. Both of them will create massive. But it's where you deny, and which is what I don't want Nigeria and Africa to deny, where you deny that, because we have oil, we have gas, allow us. No, we won't allow you, because we will not fund you, and you don't have the money to fund yourself. Present it in a manner that we will agree that you support our cause, the net zero. Africa, produce your oil, produce your gas under a net zero. But we agree you don't have the technology, you don't have the money. But because you are going to go with us, we are going to find funding for you. We are going to, because let's even face it. Even the African Development Bank, and even though they call for Africa Energy Bank, where will the money come from? It's not to come from these big pocket people. So it's a trade-off. And I see a lot. Honestly, I see coming to Egypt is a major opportunity for the African. Instead of, I wouldn't want them to go and protest. I want them to put their heads together and present a technical, economic, scientific, which we have the capacity to do that. You understand? We have people that can prepare an economic, environmental, scientific proposal to them that do this and we will be fine with you. And you know what is going to happen? Let me also tell you. It's going to also a multiplier effect on our technology, on local content, on indigenizing. You understand? A lot of things will flow out of that. Because if somebody is going to help you to start doing research on emission control, start training your students, you understand? Start giving the technology that will enable you. It is going to really open up the environment for Africa. I'm looking forward to Africa rather than protesting and keep saying, oh, we emit less than 4%. You guys emit everything. So why don't you want to allow us to produce our hydrocarbon? I don't think the world is at that level. I think the world is moving. And Africa must respectfully move with the world by being understandable that they need the money, they need the technology, they need the job, and they need sustainability of the economy. Hydrocarbon is fine, but it must come at a price. And I think we should accept that. Nigeria also, look at it. Nigeria with a target of 4 million barrels, we are producing less than 1.5 million. There's a lot of, so you understand, we need to balance the act. We need to balance the act and listen. Okay, fine. It's a technology-driven thing. These guys want net zero. So how do we achieve net zero in our oil fields, net zero in our transportation system, net zero in our refineries, net zero in our gas plants? You understand? Do you know what that means? That's research, that's technology transfer, that is job creation, that is training our human capacity. You understand? We start thinking net zero in the oil and gas. We start thinking net zero. We shouldn't deny it. We should accept it and then ask for support. It will revolutionize our industrial growth, because for every opportunity you understand you have, there's a multiplier effect. In trying to research for this, you have an innovation in another area. That is my view. And so we should really look at it eyeball to eyeball and say, you know what, we need it. We need this thing to happen. We need to support the net zero concept. We need to support it. We can't deny it. We want to produce our oil. We want to produce our gas. We want to still have our refinery. We want to still have our petrochemical, but under net zero philosophy. It will work for us.
Okay. You mentioned a whole lot about even Africa's existing capacity to even transit seems to be problematic. We need to rely on a whole lot of external interference and everything. But if we are going to be transiting at all, it means we need the strength to do so. For Nigeria, not particularly, how do you think Nigeria is going to even manage this whole thing, especially our oil and gas, which should even be the one making this move? What are the challenges there?
No, you see, listen, the energy transition has come to stay. So the earlier we agree that is something we have to do, and agreeing that, because it's sectoral, you understand, there are different, you have the agricultural area, you understand, so it's not only oil and gas, you understand, the cattle grazing, you understand, is a lot, one of the things that Europe was at some point with beef, beef has, you understand, so it's not only oil and gas, so it's a global thing. It's something that is sectoral. And for me is that rather than emotional, sentimental approach, let's scientifically, economically approach it. You understand? Nigeria is in dire need of using its resources, its hydrocarbon resources. You understand? So we need to just accept that we still need to produce. We have 37 billion barrels. There are plans of getting to 50 billion barrels. You understand? Our gas is about 210, 20, trillion scoff. There are plans of 235. We have, almost 600, unproved 600 trillion cubic, feet of gas. So it's massive. But the world is moving. The beautiful thing is that, though there are struggles when Europe said, gas should be seen as a green transition. And they know that because Europe also is very careful not to completely wipe out gas, but they are very careful. So they are also doing everything possible to make sure hydrocarbon doesn't disappear. So Nigeria should also adopt that. That listen, with our, let's say, it's out of the 600, in the next few years we're able to convert another 100. That will bring us about 300 TCF of gas. How many countries have 300 TCF of gas? You understand? So, but this gas has its own emission. So we need to adopt, we need to start thinking of the technology. We cannot run away from it. We need to start the regulatory authorities, the government, the national assemblies, the private sectors, even the financial institutions needs to agree that if Nigeria needs to produce 4 million barrels, you understand? The first question I ask myself is that if you want to produce 4 million barrels, who is going to buy your 4 million barrels? So there's already a lot of things for me I think Nigeria needs to do, and which is also an opportunity. Who are they in the next, say 2050, right? This is what, 2022? So what, 28 years, right? Who are the countries that will still need fossil fuel in these 28 years? Number one. Number two, what is their transition pathway? Well, definitely fossil fuel will be declining while renewable will increase. You understand? So while we are increasing our hydrocarbon, some of those people that depend on our hydrocarbon will be reducing their hydrocarbon and increasing their renewable. Okay? So how do we aggregate the market to support our increasing trend? That is what I really want us to do. You understand? So that let's sit down to say in the next 30 years, these are the potential market for Nigerian gas. Not just emotional, instantaneous, or on the spot market. We're talking of an aggregate long-term market. That regardless of cost, we see India still drinking our oil at this point. We see this country taking our oil at this point. So by 2030, we have this aggregate customer. By 2040, we have this aggregate customer because we know that their energy transition curve is going this way, so that we are adding up. You know what? That's what Nigeria should. I believe the federal government is already aware of. That's what Nigeria should be doing, so that we don't deny the fact that transition is on the table. We need to produce our oil. If we produce 4 million barrels, you understand? Africa itself is energy poor. Energy poverty is high in Africa. Electricity in Africa is, is how many millions are without access. So Nigeria has a lot of opportunity. A lot of opportunity to see where are the markets that will take my gas. Where are the markets? I was discussing with somebody on this Sahara to Algeria, to Europe, and someone said, Felix, come on, think. How can you guarantee that pipeline to stay 24 hours under this Boko Haram and all those militants? What would you do to keep it alive from Africa to Europe? You understand? He said the truth is, through that pipeline, how long will it operate before somebody blows it up? So those are things that, you understand? He said, yeah, it's okay. It's a major project to do the Sahara pipeline to Algeria to Europe. But he said, have we thought of the security, the militancy, the terrorists, how many times that pipe will be blown up, and all that, and all that, and all that? That for him, he thinks LNG is probably the answer. So those are the critical things that Nigeria should be worried about. Rather than worried about transition, we don't want transition, we want transition. There are a lot of opportunities for us to. Africa is a big market. Thank God for the African economy, the African, trade, the AFTA that is on. Thank God for ECOWAS. Thank God for all these things. So rather than struggling on energy transition, we should struggle with the opportunity that it provides, the technology that it provides, the market. There is going to be a market, but we cannot wish the market by sitting down on the table. We need to graph the market. We need to bring all the countries on a 5-year, maybe on calendar, that this country, we are sure these 5 years they will take this volume of gas, they will take this volume of oil, 10 years, and keep them. Because everybody, because the NDC is what you say, nationally determined contribution. It's not yet like an enforcement, and I'm afraid whether they will turn it to an enforcement, but it's not yet an enforcement. It's you and your capacity and your budget and everything you can do. You understand? Which means that there are still countries that will still struggle with a transition from importing fossil fuel. So they still be importing fossil fuel. So those are the parameters that should now be on our algorithm. So yes, there's an opportunity, but Nigeria has another challenge. Besides funding, like these people, IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, they just published their 2022 outlook, and they said transition require about 50, about 5.7 trillion. So, but then there are about about 7 trillion there about that is being funding. 700 billion, $700 billion, $0.7 trillion that's funding fossil fuel should be taken away from fossil fuel. An effort should be on renewable. Now, so there is that funding of fossil fuel under the transition. So naturally, to get money now into your hydrocarbon, if you don't have the structure, our Nigerian companies don't have the money to fund themselves. Shell can fund themselves. ExxonMobil can fund themselves. NOIC, Ajib can fund themselves. But we depend on external financing. And if the external financing are going to be scrutinized to fund fossil fuel, then this environment, ESG, sustainable and all that have to come into play. You understand? So for me, right now, what Nigeria should do is this. How do we attract funding? We have local security challenges. We have local crude theft challenges. We have local militancy challenges. All of these are adding to energy transition funding challenges. So even though you are going to get the funding, you are going to first of all deal with, there are reports of 80% loss, 90% loss, which I don't subscribe to that big volume. There are losses, but I keep struggling that if it is 90%, then what are we producing now? So if you normalize it, are we producing what more than what we should be producing? But that is, regardless of that number, it is still very important that we deal with the local losses, local challenges. So while transition is weighing on our growth, our local challenge is also adding to the pressure of the transition, agenda that is weighing on us back. So Nigeria has a little bit of additional work to do. It's not just only energy transition. How to bring money to fund our hydrocarbon. That if I produce 10,000 barrels a day, or if I'm producing 100 million scf of gas a day, I can market bearing line losses, typical line shrinkage and all that. I can sell 9,000 barrels, 9,005, and know that I produce 10,000 barrels at the casing, and at the terminal, it turns to 4,000 barrels. The economics won't hard. People who are going to put their money won't agree to put their money. They will not have enough reason to say transition must take place and move the money to renewable energy. So those are the challenges that are confronting Nigeria as a country. And I think our problem is our own problem.
Amidst these challenges, we have the world making plans. We keep making plans. The COP26 last year, energy transition, we didn't, if only we had a foresight that something like this Russia-Ukraine would even happen. And all of a sudden, we have China reimposing lockdown while the US is lifting theirs. All these things, with these are plans, going one step forward, going one step backward, and those kind of, do you think that there might even be a resurgence of like lockdowns that can just
It's
change
scary.
everything?
I'm scared. You know why I'm scared? Because it started in China and it's coming back in China. So I'm scared. China is a 1.4 billion people. Chinese are all over the world. Shanghai is more than 20 million people. So if China is shutting down, automatic energy demand will drop. And for any reason there is a second bout of COVID, Nigeria will be in a mess. So for me is to agree to the reality on ground. The world is changing.
Mm-hmm.
So we should change with it. Let's look hypothetically. I mean, that is why we're engineers and we're economists and we're everything. Model it. Model with Chinese shutting down. What is the likelihood that there will be no another center in Europe, another center in Africa, another center in the US that will force another pandemic? With all the vaccines, pandemic is still there. So it means that though they believe it will go into a flu phase, but if China is shutting down massive city like Shanghai, it should give a red light, an alarm to Nigeria. You understand? Because China is just next door neighbor to India. India is your major importer. Before you know it, in the next 2 weeks, India is shutting down. And if they shut down, of course, automatically the import will shut down. So Nigeria now needs to think, in the midst of all these crises, how do we run a sustainable economy? How do we run to the real sense of it? Who will take our oil? Who will take our gas? Who will fund it for us? How do we fund it? For me, we need to take a 30, 50-year plan. That's what most countries do. 50-year plan. Bring the whole world on your planning table and plan it. Take politics aside. Look, we don't have refinery. We've all opened on Dangote refinery is coming in. I was speaking to the refinery, experts, and he said, Felix, I'm not sure Dangote refinery will be on stream this year. He said he was one of the people that visited the refinery recently when they were commissioning the fertilizer plant. And by the time he walked through it, he said they are still at mechanical stage. He said it will be difficult for Dangote refinery to come on stream in this year. So we are still going to be importing petroleum product. AGO diesel is going 800, 750, just come down briefly marginally to 600. Something that was in the neighborhood of 100, 150, 200. You understand? So all of that will be an effect on the Nigerian economy that will not stagnate, that will drag the economy down. Because the cost of business will go up. Many businesses will go out of business. You understand? Many businesses will go out of business. So this is the time the country needs to say, listen, COVID has come to live with us. Energy transition has come to live with us. And then the geopolitics will remain for it. I do not think Russia will easily surrender to the West. Russia will not easily surrender to the West. So the noise of Russia will still be there. So we need to sit down and say, where are the opportunities of all this crisis? What do we make out of this crisis? Europe need gas. How do we? They need the gas, but they are also worried about energy transition. and they're also investing heavily in renewables. Where do we strike the balance as Nigerians to make sure we have a resilient, sustainable economy? We should take politics out of it. We must be talking about resilient, sustainable economy. And it only comes when you confront your fears. You confront your fears. For me, we have enough technocrats in this country. We have enough economists, we have enough engineers, we have enough bankers, we have enough scientists. You understand? What we need is a political will to support these technocrats, to bring out a pragmatic, step-by-step. Like, one thing that I know is really deep in my heart is take a 30 years. We said it's 2060, so 40 years. Take 40 years and go to all the world and map out those that will guarantee your market for your hydrocarbon. Study their transition model. Study their efforts. And agree with yourself that come rain or shine, if push get to shove, these countries are our guaranteed markets. Nigeria needs to really face that, so that there's no need developing without a market. There's no need, something like gas. It's not like oil. Even now, oil is almost becoming like gas, because before you invest in gas, you have to have the off-taker agreement. Oil is like a global commodity, OPEC and all, but gas is not as such. Gas, you have to have somebody to off-take your gas. You have to sign your GSPA. There must be a purchase agreement, a sales agreement, to guarantee that if I invest these dollars in gas, you are going to be the off-taker. So for me, Nigeria should do an off-taker study of our oil, off-taker study of our gas. It can be domestic, it can be continental, and it can be global in this three phases. There's no need talking about dumb gas. You know, those are languages we use. You understand? Forget about dumb gas. What is the industrialization? What is our growth? So that we know that in the next, it's not just putting numbers. We have an idea of the volume of gas that will be needed within our local domestic industry. We should also extend it to, of course, we have the West African gas pipeline. I don't know where. We're talking of the AKK. You understand? We need to know not just those things. We need to now crystallize them. We need to see how do we. Africa is a gas patch, oil and gas patch. Can we play in the African gas market? When you have the Mozambique, you have the Tanzania, you understand? You have the West African people and all that. Can we play in the gas market? If so, who are the people that can deal with an African gas market? Can we go Europe? The Nigeria is another, Nigeria, Morocco, it's another axis, and then Nigeria and Algeria. Can we go? Can our gas get to Europe by pipeline? You understand? So that those things are brought to the table in a pragmatic manner and as a practical economic decision for our political. There's no need coming to say, I want to change. The typical mantra. No. Any politician that, if I have my way and I have the opportunity, all of those who are contesting for presidency, put them on a witness box and throw the economy at them, throw global issues at them, and let them stammer or let them speak fluently on their vision on the global dynamics of how to create a resilient and sustainable economy. It's not just wishing, wash. No, don't say that anymore. The world is no longer talking. The world is acting. Nigeria must act. And we have the people, we have the brain. Recently, Buhari accepted that education needs to, so we need to fund our education. We need to fund R&D. We need to work in the corridors of innovation and technology. You can't really listen. The world have changed. It's no longer rule and pie share. It doesn't work that way. Now is pure technology. Some of these things, I mean, they are there, you can see them. So that for me are the opportunities for Nigeria. You understand? The opportunities are massive. We can do it. We have the people to do it. But the moment you can think it, you can do it. If you can't think it, pay somebody to think for you. We have a lot of people globally who know what we don't know. Get them to tell you what to do. But if they tell you what to do, don't politicize it. Do it. Now there's a transition government coming in the country, and the usual campaign is what we're going to hear. No. Put COVID, put Russia-Ukraine war, put energy transition, put all this, there's one energy security and energy independence, put it on their table. Put artificial intelligence, all the innovation on their table and say, guys, discuss your vision of Nigeria and tell me in the 4 years of your coming as president, what will you do? Don't use a word, change. Don't do change. Just tell me your algorithm. You understand? We need to do that. We must do that. Otherwise, they are going to colonize us.
Seriously.
A
very serious one. Briefly, when we started, you gave a very quick recap of how this whole Russia-Ukraine is impacting global energy structure. I want you to briefly also help us, give us specifically how you think that conflict can also change the course of both energy structure currently and, of course, the global economy.
No, excellent. It's already impacting because it's a dynamic. This is a Cold War of NATO after the World War. You understand? So it's been a Cold War, and they've been hitting until it become a real war. You understand? And it's all pride and prejudice. You understand? So right now the sanction is, because some of the challenges that I was listening to the CNN and BBC, that Europe, you are putting sanction on Russia, but you are paying for the war. So that is really a hard talk discussion. You want Russia to stop the war, but you are paying them to fight the war. Because you are still taking their gas. And so what are you doing? You are funding the war. You yourself is funding the war. So that really was a big bother. You understand? So Europe is thinking seriously. So the dynamics will change. Obviously, Russia is trying to align on its geography, on the Asian, because it's Eurasia, you understand? So it's trying to now align with the Asian matrix. But the US have just issued a warning to India, because India was trying to because India needs a lot of energy. Of course, that trying to do underbelly to buy Russian energy. You understand? So it's automatically, I don't know how long, even though this war, of course, if you watch, they are trying to have a truce, but even though this war stops, what it will mean is this: the energy, geography will change for a long time. You understand? Germany now, that used to say no, don't worry, now is already thinking not only of energy security but energy independence. Okay. That's what is going to happen. The recent report by this thing said, listen, the whole world economy, 80% of the global society depends on fossil fuel. Importers. You understand? They import. But then not all these importers are importing, but they can also have their energy independence through renewable energy. Now, you know what is happening now? Oil prices, it went to 139, you understand? So that is also creating, the high prices of this war will also create energy poverty. You understand? Even the developed economies are saying, please mind the way you use your gas, because we don't have the gas. So it's not only in industrialization, but even in the social structure. And people ask ourselves, why then did we have to depend on Russia for this long? That is the structure that is coming.
Yeah.
You understand? Why do we have to switch off our this? Why am I not enjoying this? What happens to this? Oh, sorry, we need to fight this war clean. But it won't last, because these are developed economies. They have the money, they have the technology, they have the resources. They are going to fight it to make sure that they break away from the energy structure. They don't want to be, enslaved through, another someone, because, energy is a weapon.
Yeah.
It's very obvious energy is a weapon. And Nigeria need to recognize that it's no longer, energy is not just an economic tool. It's a control tool. You understand? It's controlling. If you can control somebody's energy, you can control his life. So this is the time Nigeria also needs to think that the global energy structure is changing. I can tell you it will lean towards very strong pursuit towards energy security and energy independence for those who can actually create their own energy. But everybody will now sit back and say, hey, listen, suppose something like this happen. This is the first visible war in Europe after World War II. You understand? There is none. So everybody is shocked. How could we have allowed this to happen? We never dreamed that after World War II there will be another assault on European land. We are supposed to be the first world people.
True.
It's so. As at this moment, we are talking about 4 million people are already. You understand? So it's massive. And do you think they will allow it to continue? They will allow this energy state to continue? No. They will work so hard to be free. Now, who will they rely on? That is where Africa needs to come in. Can Nigeria play a dominant role in this new global energy structure? We have the gas. Can Nigeria play a dominant role? Can Nigeria take advantage of this to say, this is our season?
Yeah.
You understand? This is our time. Forget about the internal crisis. Guys, let's run into this. Let's see if in the next 20 years, Europe will be using 20% of Nigerian gas.
Okay. So, like you just said now, I know you've raised a question that is, how can Nigeria cash in on these opportunities? So let's answer that now. This war, the challenge, what challenges and opportunities does it pose to the Nigerian oil and gas industry?
No, it's clear. OPEC, Secretary General has said OPEC doesn't have the present capacity to fill up. You understand? Which means that there is need to be more hydrocarbon resources. Mm-hmm. So this is the time Nigeria should come to the table. That listen, this is our world. This is our world. We have the gas, but we don't have the money.
Okay.
We have the oil, but we don't have the money. We have security challenges. Let's try to fix it as a country. Let's look for partners. Let's look for investors. But investors will ask you, Nigeria, do I need to stake my money with you? Is it guaranteed investment? How long? That is what the country should be answering in our private room. Because while the opportunities are there, they come with a high risk. Mm-hmm. So we need to de-risk, we need to minimize the risk and accept that, listen, we just need to, because this, look, I can tell you that the energy structure, the global energy structure have changed. It will remain like this for some time. But there is going to be a fill gap. The Middle East are going to increase their production. It's going to be somebody has to bridge the gap. Africa is what people are looking at. But Nigeria is not in a very strategic position to the global arm. Because Tanzania is further in the north and it takes them a little. They just go. They can pass through Turkey. They can and get into Europe. You understand?
Yeah.
Morocco and Nigeria are talking about collaboration. Algeria and also Nigeria needs to start looking at how do we collaborate within the continent to make sure that our gas can get to. You understand? Or secondly, we need to do LNG. 27. How long has it taken us for 27? Should we encourage individual LNG projects? When is the maturation of an LNG? What is the process, the policies to make sure that people will do LNG so that we can have not only an NPC, an LNG, but there are private LNG companies that can also export our gas outside of the country. Who are ready to embark on that? How do we attract investors into those export-oriented projects? You understand? Because there is massive opportunity. But we need to work. We need to let the world know we are serious about it. We need to take our individual politics out of the way. And for once, look at a global target as Nigerian target and sell it to everybody. That Nigeria, this is an opportunity. You understand what I'm saying? So this is what I think the country should.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. In case you're just watching, or you've been watching, we've been discussing two key events that have, kick-started the new decade, which is energy transition and, of course, the Russia-Ukraine war and how they impact, of course, the Nigerian oil and gas industry, the challenges they bring and the opportunities they also bring. It's been a very interesting discussion, and we hope that you find them very insightful for your decision making and on how you understand how energy shapes the global polity. Thank you very much, sir, for those inputs.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, keep subscribing to the Energy Hub channel. Share our content with your community. We're actually growing a very critical aspect of Africa's energy industry. Please stay tuned. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.